Hello and welcome to the Little White Lies Quick History. And today on the agenda we have Rome. So a lot of people think of Rome purely as the Roman Empire, and that is not the case at all. Actually, in prehistoric Italy, there were a bunch of different tribes, one of which were the Latins. And these people eventually went on to establish the city of Rome and became known as the Romans. An easy way to remember this is because the Romans spoke the language of Latin, which comes from the Latin people. And when Rome was first established, it was actually called the Kingdom of Rome, ruled by a system of kings instead of emperors. And when this stopped, Rome was ruled by a king called Tarquin the Proud, a pretty much tyrannical dictator who did whatever he wanted. And when his son got involved in a series of scandals, people were so outraged that they just abolished the system of kings entirely, giving rise to the Roman Senate, where elites were voted into power. And this gave rise to the Roman Republic. And this went on for a few centuries as well, until we get to Julius Caesar at the end of the Roman Republic. Now, Julius Caesar is usually referred to as an emperor, but that is not the case. Sure, he did lead to emperors eventually becoming a thing, but he never held the title himself, the title of imperator. He was a brilliant military tactician, won a lot of victories, became very powerful in the political climate, and that's why he was eventually assassinated at the Ides of March. But he did have a nephew and adopted son. Adoption didn't work the same way as it does today, where you adopt a small child and raise it. It's very much a fully grown man adopting another fully grown man into inheriting his political titles and estates. So his nephew was called Octavianus, and in English, he is referred to as Octavian, and he would later become the first Roman emperor known as Augustus, which is where we actually get the months of July and August today. Augustus and Julius Caesar, or Julius Caesar, as he was called that time. So the Empire of Rome went on for another 400 years. But somewhere along that road, the Roman Empire actually split into two, the Eastern and the Western empires. So the Western Empire was still established around Rome. I think the capital also moved at a certain state, but the Eastern Empire was based around Turkey in Constantinople after Emperor Constantine, modern-day Istanbul. And Rome began to take so much interest into the eastern part of the empire that the western part eventually was just getting a bit more abandoned. And because the empire was ruled by two emperors at the time, one for each capital, things were very split, very disorganized, and that led to Rome eventually being invaded and the end of the empire. And this was around the 450s AD or CE. And when the Empire of Rome ended, that actually began the Byzantine Empire in Turkey and the beginning of the medieval era or the Middle Ages, which went on for 1,000 years until we get closer to what's called the modern age. So that is a quick rundown, maybe not so quick, of Roman history.